Hey, I'm glad you're here. My name is Zselyke, that's zselyke, and in this channel I talk about digital marketing tips and tricks, and I'm hoping that this will help you grow your small business. So on today's video, I wanted to talk about marketing budgets because this is definitely something that comes up a lot. Many times in initial conversations with clients, when I start asking about the budget and what they might be willing to spend on their marketing projects, they ask me back what do I think would make sense. And honestly, you can basically put almost limitless amounts of money into your marketing efforts, but it does not always mean that it will bring you a return of investment. With marketing, the tricky part is that you still kind of need to find that sweet spot where you are spending enough, where it generates revenue, but at the same time, you want to be very careful that you don't spend too much where all the money that you're spending doesn't really bring enough revenue back anymore. So that's easier said than done, right? So how do we find the sweet spot? Before we dive deeper into the magical world of marketing budgets, I do want to say that there's no magic formula or no magic number that will show you instantly what would be the perfect marketing budget for you. But there's definitely a lot of tips and tricks and tools that you can use in order to determine what would make sense for you. So I hope that you will stick along for that, and I will walk you through all the possible things that you might want to consider before determining your own marketing budget that will work for you. So especially if you very recently launched your business, you might be in a dilemma where you're saying, hey, I'm really not generating a lot of revenue, maybe not at all, or maybe just very little amounts of money. So you might think that marketing is not something you can afford. But on the other hand, you probably know that you do need marketing and branding in order to make more money because you need people to know about your product. So now you're in this dilemma where you need to grow your brand to make money, but first you need money to do that, right? I usually advise my clients to think of marketing as any other operational expense. Just like buying into your printer, you need marketing enabled to stay in the competition and let new customers know that you exist and let all customers know that you might be offering new products, etc., etc. So you need marketing to be able to stay in the game, because very few businesses actually run successfully for a long period of time without any marketing efforts. So here you are with your new business, and you have a great product or great service that you're offering, but no one knows about it. Something you definitely can work with is advertising, and this is a very easy and quick tool to let potential consumers know that your product exists and it's available for purchase. So to start determining how much your marketing budget should be, the very first step is gathering all types of data and information available about your business. This includes, but is not limited to, data about your past incomes and expenses, and some projected future expenses and projected future sales. And what's also very important is to set some quantifiable goals. So don't just say, oh, in 2021, I want to grow my business. Say that in 2021, I want my sales revenue to be 20% higher than what it was in 2020. You can also chop it down to smaller goals. So you can do Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4. You can even do a month-to-month one. But the really important thing is that you quantify what is it that you want to achieve and what is reasonable, and also what you're capable of. So unless you're in software or selling a digital product where it doesn't matter for you if you're selling 100 or 1,000 in terms of manufacturing, then you really might also want to consider what is it that you're capable of. Say you have a product that needs manufacturing. Are you able to produce 20% more next year than you are doing this year? If so, then that could be a realistic goal for you. But the important thing is that you have this written down and you have a clear idea what is it that you want. And from there, you kind of can work around it to see what your budget should be. It's also important to write these down, because once you start executing these, then you can kind of look back at this plan and see how you're actually doing compared to your original plan. So as mentioned earlier, your budget will depend on several factors. One of them is definitely the age of your business. Especially if you're a young business who just recently gotten started, then you might want to invest more money in your marketing, because even if you have the most amazing product, if no one knows about it, then you cannot generate any sales. So young enterprises that are between 1 to 5 years old, they will probably need to implement more aggressive marketing tactics in order to build up that brand and reputation that older companies already have. So many companies, when they're in financial trouble or they just want to cut expenses, marketing might be one of their first choices. But I encourage you to think about that twice, especially if your sales revenue is directly linked to your marketing efforts. Then basically, you might first think that you're cutting your expenses, but if that also cuts your sales revenue, then you might end up in the exact same place. So instead of doing that, I might advise you to maybe even double down on marketing to increase your sales. Especially if you have a very good marketing strategy and a talented marketing team, then it can happen that your sales revenue is actually exponential compared to the amount of money you're investing in marketing. So in this case, investing a little more amount of money in marketing, it might increase your sales revenue a lot if you're putting your marketing budget in the right place. Another determining factor for your marketing budget will be your reach. So depending on who is your target audience, your budget will vary quite a lot. So if you have a hyper-local business where you might only want to reach the people in your neighborhood or say city, then that's obviously going to be much cheaper as opposed to if you're running a international campaign where you're focusing on a whole continent or even several continents. In that case, you will also have to take into account that these campaigns will have to be multilingual, and different countries will have different sales channels and different things will work in different countries. Some things that work in the US might not work in the UK and vice versa. So you might really want to keep that in mind. Going back to your goals, it's also important to determine what is it that you're trying to achieve with your marketing efforts. Are you trying to break into new markets where you will have to build brand awareness? Or are you simply trying to sell an already well-known product to consumers who might already know your brand? So based on this, it will also definitely vary. So let's say you have a new hummus brand that has different flavors. So maybe even with very little marketing efforts and just by getting your product on the shelves, it might be very easy for you to get some consumers to try your product, and if they like it, they will probably start purchasing it. So in this case, you probably don't have to do very big marketing efforts. The most expensive type of marketing in this sense is when you're introducing a completely new product, because in this way you will definitely have to educate your target audience and convince them that this is a product that will solve one of their pain points. Think about Uber or Airbnb. When they first rolled out with their product, it was a completely new thing, and there were some early adopters that were really excited about the technology, but it definitely took a lot of years for them to build up their reputation and get to where they are right now. Another factor that will help you determine your marketing budget is how aggressive you want to be. If your goal is pretty moderate, say a 5% growth from the previous year, then you probably don't need to allocate that much into your marketing budget. But say if you want to grow 100% from the previous year's sales revenue, then you bet that you will need to invest a lot of money in marketing to achieve that goal. So as I said in the beginning of the video, that although there's no magic number or magic formula for this, there are some percentage indicators that I can give you that might be able to help you determine if you're even in the ballpark of what you should be considering. So well-established businesses spend usually anything between 5 to 10% on marketing efforts. However, this means that these businesses will already have a built-up reputation and they can solely focus on introducing new products and doing some branding campaigns, as opposed to introducing completely new products to new markets. So if you have a new business or you just simply want to adapt some more aggressive marketing techniques, then you can be thinking anything between 10 to say 15% of your annual revenue. Now, I know this sounds like a lot of money, but at the same time, this is something that should be able to generate you a return on investment, meaning that it will amp up your sales revenue. Now, I hear some of you saying, hey Zselyke, my business is so new, I don't even have an annual revenue from last year to calculate from. I don't even have any revenue yet. Where do I start from? In this case, you might want to try and calculate backwards. So try and calculate from the amount of sales you might want to have. Now, this might sound a little controversial, but hear me out on this. So let's say currently your revenue is a big fat zero, but you know you have a great product and you know that as soon as people will know about it, they would like to purchase it. So let's say you have the potential to sell an X amount of units next month that are worth for you $10,000. So the question here is, how much are you willing to spend to generate that $10,000 revenue? Maybe you find that spending anything from quarter to half of that would be adequate and reasonable for you to generate that sort of revenue. When you're making these calculations, just also make sure that you're calculating your operational costs and all the expenses that you might have along the way. Because sometimes it's easy to forget that your sales revenue is not profit just yet, because you will still need to pay taxes, you might have employees, etc., etc. So don't blow up all your potential sales revenue on marketing. Another way of determining your potential marketing budget is, if you already have some sales revenue, then let's say you would like to try and increase this with 20%. So try to quantify how much that 20% is and decide that you're willing to spend up to 50% of that on marketing. Now, I know these percentages are high, but if you are starting with your marketing efforts, keep in mind that your costs in the beginning will always be higher. It takes time to build a brand and educate your audiences, and you really have to consider marketing as an investment for the future, because without it, it's really very, very difficult to grow. So the more money you invest in marketing, the better you will know what is it that works. And ultimately, your cost of marketing should decrease and your return of investment should increase. Obviously, there's going to be seasonalities and there's going to be things that won't work or things that will work very well. But you will just have to keep an eye on this and constantly monitor, so you're able to learn from your mistakes and improve. So I have one final bonus tip for you, and that is that although marketing can be a really great tool, however much you spend on it, ultimately customer satisfaction is what will determine your long-term success. If you don't fulfill your promises and your product or service does not meet customer expectations, then word of mouth will travel and people will simply not be repurchasing your product, and you won't be able to shake a bad reputation off. So the best long-term strategy really is to provide a product or service that solves a pain point or problem in your customer's life. And this way they will recommend you to their friends, and they will be also returning customers themselves. I often tell my clients that marketing is only as good as the product or service they are selling. So providing a good product or service is the best long-term strategy that a company can have. So I hope this video gave you some food for thought in terms of how to determine what your marketing budget should be. If you still have some questions, then feel free to leave them down below. I will definitely check them out and I will try to answer all of them. And other than that, I hope you have a great day.